All right, welcome back everybody to the Balintawak FQI highlight series. Today we have a treat from up in Ohio, fellow Balintawak brother of mine, training with Grandmaster Jorge Penafiel. We're gonna bring on to you Guro Elmann Cabotage. Here we go.
Hey.
There he is. All right. Hey, what's going on?
Not much, man.
Long time no talk. Let's go ahead and introduce yourself and your school and share that little tidbit there.
Okay. Yeah. Well, my name is Elmann Cabotage, or Cabotage, which is the correct Filipino pronunciation if you want to go be real technical about it. But yeah, I'm from Columbus, Ohio. And I guess me and June met way back when I used to live in Cincinnati, and I'm one of the original guys over at the or first generation guys in the Cincinnati Balintawak Club when we first started getting ourselves going. And like, yeah, I mean, I've been here teaching Balintawak since about, I think 2009 was my FQI date. I mean, I think I probably started around 2008, truth be told, and been doing it here ever since.
When did you start the Balintawak? I mean, you said 2008?
No, that was 2008 is when I started teaching up here in Columbus. I started Balintawak when I was a student at the University of Cincinnati back in around 1995.
I was gonna say
1995. It was like really way the heck early, dude.
Yeah, 95. So yeah. Let's talk about that. Okay, by the way, guys, everybody, just to share, you know, I know by the time I started Balintawak under Grandmaster Jorge, Elmann was already, I don't even remember what rank you were at, but you were already there. You were already kind of moved on beyond the regular classes and only popping in a few times. But you were, yeah, you were there much longer. It was you and Ray. Were you Ray's FQI? I mean,
yeah, Ray's FQI.
No, were you Ray's COA?
Yeah, Ray got his FQI at the same time I got my completion of the art, which is called COA today, but like level 6 completion art, whatever you want to call it, or COA. I mean, I got that in 2001, and Ray got his FQI at the same time. We tested in Charlotte over at, I think it was like the old MATI school.
Oh, yep. I'm actually, I think I've been to that school.
Right. As I said, I was a student at the University of Cincinnati along with Ray and a lot of other Filipino students back then, and we were all members of the Filipino American Student Association. And it just started becoming a big thing back then. And like one day we were at like one of our dance troupe practices, and I saw Ray and then this woman, Lisa Rikia. They were doing Balintawak, so she, you know, they were just kind of doing the stick thing, kind of going back and forth. I said, like, I've seen that before, but like not quite like that. And then and I just kind of watching them like in like interest. And they were doing kind of counter to counter, and Ray was leading, and Lisa was coming back, and she was kind of on that receiving end and everything. And and I just said, like, hey guys, if you don't mind my asking, what is that? And they said, like, oh, it's Balintawak. I go, is that from the Philippines? They said, yeah, it's because so we learn it in a class like a couple times a week under Jorge Penafiel. I mean, if you're interested, you can come along with us. I said, yeah, I think I will. Let me know next time you guys are going out there. And of course, Jorge at the time was teaching at the community center in in a real rough part of downtown Cincinnati. It wasn't the safest place to go, but it was nonetheless, it was where he offered it. And, you know, and that's how I started. I started showing up there, and we were just a small class. And I think that I'm pretty sure that's where Jorge got his start as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was born in Manila, Philippines. Earliest childhood memories were like in New Jersey, and then mostly in Findlay, Ohio, which is where I was raised. And of course, I lived a little bit in Cincinnati, which is how I ran into the Cincinnati Balintawak Club. And today I live in Columbus, Ohio, more specifically in Pickerington, which is kind of a suburb on the east side. took me a while to get there because after I graduated, well, backing up a little, when I started, there really weren't all of these levels and things like that. There are a lot of differences. Either you're a completion of the art or you weren't. It means it's like either having a white belt or a black belt, and there's like nothing in between. And the idea was kind of being tossed around and everything like that. I said, okay, well, whatever. So we just kind of took the instruction, and and even though like it might sound like it was a little bit unstructured, I mean, what I really liked about Balintawak was Grandmaster Penafiel he was very good at organizing and packaging things in such a way that was easy to follow. It wasn't quite packaged like how it is today. It was, I mean, so he kind of invented his own way of doing it. It was very similar, and it made the same logical sense into what we have today. And even sometimes when you start talking to other people about Balintawak, and when they start talking about the grouping system, and they say like, no, group 5A, B, C, I said, oh, Penafiel lineage. So like, no one ever like really does that. Or shadow fighting number 6. Oh no, that's everyone's like sitting here looking at you strange, and it's like, oh, you're from the Penafiel lineage. Yeah. Because we sat there and chopped it up and organized it. So they said, well, what is that? It said, well, R7 looks like this. Our shadow fighting 6 looks like that. Oh, your shadow fighting 5B is the same thing as my shadow fighting number 6. And then like, and they said, well, how did you guys organize it? Or how did Penafiel organize it? I said, well, it kind of depended on how you wrote it on your outline as he was talking. All right. I mean, and I still have those outlines today, and Ray has his outlines, and I'm sure Mike has his, and things like that. And we can break them out and probably compare notes. In the end, it's the same thing. It's just that how we kept our notes and everything like that. You guys, that's what you have today.
For sure.
Right. So it's like, I mean, but by the time, I think right around my second or third year of doing Balintawak, they had come out with this 6-level system, and then Penafiel had to come up with a decision on what levels we were at. And so he just kind of looked at me and says, man, are you cool with being level 4? I said, yeah, sure. And that's cool. I can do that, man. And he said, well, whatever you want, man. Whatever you think I'm at, Tito, George. I mean, that's what I am, man. Yeah. And that's where I was. And then Ray was a 5, and of course, then he became a 6 shortly after that, because when Bobby showed up for town, and he tested and everything like that. And then and I think that was around 1996. But then, of course, I had graduated and then started working, and then kind of left Balintawak and all that stuff behind, so I can, grow my professional career. Right. And then eventually I returned to Cincinnati, and let's see, and so like in 2001 is when I got my completion of the art.
Oh, so yeah, 2001. Yeah. So that one.
Right. But then shortly after that, a couple of years after that, I ended up taking a job in Columbus. And of course, there was no Balintawak in Columbus, and I kind of left it behind again. And honestly, June, I didn't think I was ever going to see it again. I figured I was just going to be chums with those guys, and every so often road trip to Cincinnati and hang with the boys and kind of hang out, have fun. In the meantime, come back up here to Columbus and do my own thing. And then eventually the opportunity came up where a guy, Joe Evans, who eventually became my COA, expressed interest in how he wanted to learn Balintawak, and that was pretty much the main reason why I restarted here again, was because he was a really cool dude, and we got to be really good friends, and we were just I was just showing him some stuff in his backyard, and then after a while I said, hey Joe, what do you want to do with this? I mean, it's cool. We can sit here and have fun and train and stuff like that. And you're getting pretty good at all this stuff. But do you want to get really good, really legit with this stuff? Or do you just want to have fun? And he said well, what do you mean? I said, well, the right way to do it is if you really want to get good at this and be all legit, is you go ahead and rank promote yourself into the system and get your completion of the art level 6. And we just go little by little, and it wouldn't be hard for us to do that, seeing that all my boys are still in Cincinnati training, and they've got a pretty good group going out there. and we can always hook up with them, and maybe once a month sit there, go over and train and test with them and stuff like that. And you can go up through the ranks and get yourself your level 6, which at that time it was also called the black belt equivalency test.
Right.
They use that term a little bit less today, but like in order for us to I guess mesh along with the martial arts community, we had to say like, okay, because they just weren't used to seeing these levels.
Right.
And then okay, so we called it black belt equivalency. And of course, his eyes lit up like, oh man, yeah, cool. I've always wanted to have a black belt. I was like, you think I can do that? You know, and said, of course you can do that. Yeah, I did it. I'm like, great. So come on, and you're doing it so good right now. And that's I mean, and really, I didn't have. I mean, that was my goal. My goal was to be his friend and like usher him through into his level 6. But then eventually, you know, my son Enrique, we signed him up for a martial arts program at OM's Martial Arts out here in Reynoldsburg, Ohio, and Joe, his kid went to the same school, and eventually one day while they were taking practice, Dale OM came up and approached me, and he said like, hey, I've been talking to Joe Evans, and like he says you do some Filipino martial arts. I said, yeah, I do a little bit. He goes, well, actually, I heard it was more than just a little bit. Would you mind telling me what your background is? And so then I started talking to him about what Balintawak was and everything like that. And he expressed that like he'd always had some interest in Filipino martial arts, but there's just nothing like that in this area. And he was interested in actual, you know, I mean, his experience was he had sticks, and he'd take him to Cincinnati once every 2 years for the Dan Inosauna seminar that used to happen over at Reed's Academy. Yep. Right. And Danny used to go over there every 2 years. And he's just like, man, it would be great if, you know, someone had a school and that taught this stuff like, you know, pretty regularly, and it just wasn't here. But now here was his opportunity. So he says, would you mind doing a class for me? Just kind of a freebie or demonstration class. I said, yeah, sure. Because have you taught a class before? I said, yeah, I'd sub in for Tito Jorge every so often and everything like that. But like, no, I wouldn't like I did it all the time. But I'm sure I could do a pretty, you know, respectful job and keep things safe and get people to have fun. I mean, that's what we're looking for. And I did that, and like they were pretty interested. And then he said like, hey, those guys received it really well. Elmann, would you want to go ahead and do that again with a different group here in about a couple of weeks? I said, sure. So I did it again. And then after that, he said, hey, this looks like it's going pretty good and look like you're enjoying yourself out there. I mean, would you like to start a class?
There's the hook.
Oh, no, that's, I mean, like, yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it. So that's how we started the Balintawak class here. And that was really the reason why I decided to pursue level 7. I mean, the timing was good because Joe was already so close to getting, you know, to you know, getting that level 6, and then you know, and now there's finally a class. Now there's actually a reason for me to, you know, to invest that kind of time and rack my brain with my 24 techniques and things like that. And I said, and have a goal, you know. I mean, that's one of the things about me is like with Balintawak, I never really had any goals. You know, I never really had any targets like, oh, I want to do this. And, you know, I'm not like one of those guys that said that like, oh, you know, I want to be, you know, when I started off and I want to be an FQI in such and such a time or whatever. I mean, I just kind of like let it happen, and it's the right thing to do and it feels natural, you know. I go ahead and go for it, you know. And in this case, it was the right thing to do. And like I said, okay, well, and I mean, I get to be back training with the boys again, which is a heck of a lot of fun. And then like, yeah, and that's my journey into FQI, just from, I guess, just kind of an overview, I guess. But there's a lot more detail than that, which I'm pretty sure you're going to have some questions about.
Yes, we're gonna detail that out.
Why did I choose Balintawak? Well, like I said, it was. I mean, I saw Ray and Lisa doing it, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. And like, I mean, I hadn't seen stuff like that since like my mom tried to show it to me when I was like 6 or so. I mean, there was Arnis on my side of the family, and like honestly, when I was a little kid, me and my brothers were kind of getting picked on by all the other kids in school because they hadn't seen Asian kids before, and we lived in this like really undiverse town, and like so she sat there and tried to teach us how to defend ourselves with a stick, and we just kind of made fun of her, and like we had a hard time, and he said, okay, forget it, you guys, you don't want to appreciate this stuff, then then you can pretty much forget about you're on your own.
So what I'm hearing is that your mom was an Arnisador.
Yeah, it was. She was. I mean, she was taught by her mother. It all came from her mother's side. I mean, they're from Pampanga. And interesting thing, June, that you bring that up. I mean, I actually saw like an old documentary that was from Pampanga, and it was all in black and white, and it was the documentary was in French. I guess they filmed this thing in Pampanga, and that area wasn't far from where she grew up.
Wow. So do you know what system or style that was there or anything, or do you know anything that she's had insight to it?
You know, June, I don't even know if they even had a name for it back then. They just everyone just called it Arnis de Mano, and that was it. But there wasn't any, styles or anything like that. They just, I mean, like, there's no reason to go ahead and give it a name unless you want to go ahead and enterprise off of it and brand and things like that. They didn't need to do kind of stuff like that back then. Just wanted to sit there and be able to defend themselves, bro.
At least FMA and Arnis is in your blood. You can legit say that.
No, but that's the long answer to your question about why it intrigued me, because I'd seen it before, but like not quite like that. Yeah. And like and thing is, the way my mom was teaching and the way she was taught, it wasn't like they didn't have like a level 1 or level 2, or first you have to learn these 12 basic strikes. She goes, no, you just do this and this and this and this and this and this and whack, and that's it. It was like, okay. So she didn't really have a way to teach it, because that's how she was kind of taught the thing too. So like, but here, I mean, so what kept me in it was the fact that like all my friends did it, and I liked all my friends, and we were cool, and I was the president of the club, of the Filipino club out there, and like and so and then also the fact that Tito George was like really good at structuring things and presenting it in such a way that you can really follow it and everything. Yeah. So like, so we all progressed together and everything like that, and like I said, it was one of the best times I had in my life. So how can you not do it?
Yeah, I know. I was there. I freaking day one walk in, and next thing you know, years later, I'm like, hey, we're still here, hanging out with the boys, training some cool stuff, and then of course under guidance of Tito George there. Yeah. So. Yeah. Now, how was your FQI journey experience? Were there any major hurdles or challenges?
Oh gosh. Well, it's strange that you mentioned that. Let's see. I mean, it's because like there are a lot of challenges even at COA. It's strange that you mentioned that, June, is because like every time I either test for a rank like COA or FQI, my wife and I always have a kid. Okay, so Enrique was born in 2001, and like 2 months later, I tested for my COA with very little sleep. And then in 2009, EJ was born, and he was born like 3 months before I tested for my FQI. So it's like, so every time I have to go through these tests, we have a kid, and I'm always running on like very, very little sleep. So that's part of the challenge. Of course, there's also the challenge between doing that, and then also like trying to balance it along with your career and everything like that. And I would say that those were the most difficult challenges and things like that. Then of course, I mean, I try to train myself, and I have injuries and things like that. But yeah, it was, so those were the kind of the more major outside influences that like really took the toll on the journey. Apart from that was me and I mean, one of the things that like where I differ a little bit from Tito George is he doesn't like you arguing. He just sits there and says, he goes, you can have an opinion, but at the end you got to do you got to shut up and do what I say. And then I said, and you kind of agree to that. You sign the dotted line. Okay, that's cool. We'll do that. And he did. He let me go ahead and run my mouth a couple of times. And after that, you just like sit there and stare at me. And then I'm like, okay, I'll shut up now. But with Joe and some of the guys here, I actually let them ask a lot of questions, and we get into arguments and things like that, and we can agree to disagree and everything like that. So we're a little bit more. Yeah, and I got in a lot of arguments with Joe on certain things, and a lot of it is because it wasn't because he was a bad guy. It's because I actually encouraged it. It's because that's just kind of how I am. And because to me, I mean, he asked questions, and if I can't answer it, and I've got to, then what the heck kind of instructor am I really,
Right.
I'm not going to have an answer for everything, but but if they have a good question and I can't answer it, then man, isn't it really worthwhile for your development as a teacher or a martial artist to be able to, be able to address that? I mean, so it's a learning experience for you too. I mean, that's kind of how I look at it. I don't look at it as a sign of disrespect at all. Whereas growing up Filipino, if you question your parents or someone higher up, then you get that nice slap in the head and everything like that. You go, okay, it's cool, bro.
You're assuming the head, you're getting straight in the face.
Yeah.
All right. Now, what were your inspirations when you're coming up with your own 24 techniques?
Oh, my own 24 techniques. Let's see. My background is a lot of grappling. I did wrestling. I'm also into Shinji-Tai Jiu-Jitsu, which is a Japanese form of Jiu-Jitsu that originated from Kodokan. And then I'm also a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu today. Here at Ullams, we also do a lot of kickboxing. My first martial art was karate. I mean, so I did a lot of martial arts on my way up to Balintawak. So I had a lot of influences. A lot of the techniques that I did back in 2009, when I was much younger than I am today, I couldn't do a lot of those techniques today. So I've actually had to change a lot of those techniques and everything like that. And honestly, even after you're at level 7, you look back and say I did that technique. Oh, that was BS. Let's change it around and do this instead. And so even up to today, my 24 techniques are kind of a work in progress,
Right. Yeah. Well, that's that's the evolution and growth of your techniques, and really
right.
The system there. Was there any particular strategy you used when navigating through the process of coming up and remembering your own 24 techniques? 24.
Oh yeah, that was tough. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you have your own strategy for that?
Well, my strategy, the 24 techniques that I have today are, the way I have them memorized is the fact that all of my odd numbered techniques come from the forehand side, and all my even numbered techniques come from the backhand side. And and then what you also notice is that the technique, all my techniques come in pairs, and one is a mirror of the other. So I have right. So in other words, I'll do the technique from the forehand side, and I was I can do the same thing, even if they do it from backhand side. Just got to make a few adjustments here and there, but the principle in the end is basically the same.
Yeah, the principle,
okay.
the principle basically is the same that leads into the spinning back kick. Every time I see you into the gauntlet, it's like, I don't know, is this the guy that he's gonna do the spinning back kick too? Or let's see where he goes. That's your signature, by the way. Every time I see it, it, I'm like, there it is.
And my gauntlet was pretty well. It was pretty interesting. As a whole, my test was a little bit different. You'll notice that every year since you've been in Balintawak and I've been in Balintawak, there were world camp pictures every year, except for 1 year. What year was that now, June?
Except for 1 year throughout the years.
Yeah, Garth pointed this out too, and he was asking everybody under the sun if we all had group pictures of the world camp that was in 2009, and no one can give him one. Everyone's just kind of scratching their head. And it's because there wasn't I don't think there was a world camp in 2009, which is the year that I got my FQI.
Well, there was no. So where did you get yours?
I got mine over at Ulam's dojo. We actually, I mean, it was kind of like the grand opening or the unveiling of the Columbus Balintawak or whatever have you, and we held it here at Ulam's martial arts dojo, and I had Bobby, Mike, Patrick, and a few other people come over, and that's where I did. We tested 2 level 6s. I think Paula Santos tested as a level 6 there, and so did Joe Evans. And then also like my new people, my new class here, they tested levels 1 and 2. Okay. So we had a seminar on that Saturday, and then of course that full day of testing on the Sunday. Now, like when you go through the full day of testing on that Sunday back then, it's not like today where you have like 10 people or 20 people testing for FQI at the same time. I mean, like, you know, back in those days, you had maybe 1 or 2, and then like, and of course, if Bobby came to your home turf, I mean, you're the only one that's pretty much testing for FQI. So I did a technique, and they would just sit there and break it down and analyze it, okay, to the minutest detail, and said, oh, I want you to repeat that one part where you do this. I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's like, it was almost like I was defending a master's thesis, you know, which is kind of cool, you know, but that's how that went. But then all the way up, and you had to go ahead and do the whole entire test all the way from level 1, and it wasn't like you had to do it with like a whole entire class. I mean, I had to pretty much do it on my own with my level 6 guy, and of course, I mean, because he has all day to go ahead and tell you what you did wrong. So anyway,
you gotta do your techniques and analyze your techniques on what you did wrong with it.
So my gauntlet, you know, I mean, with you know, I think Michael was part of it, and then of course Grandmaster Penafiel, and working all the way up to Grandmaster Taboada.
Yeah. Now you got me thinking about that 2009 aspect. Like, why particularly that year we didn't have one? Because it's been pretty consistent in terms of
it has. But seriously, try to see if you can find a photo, because like we're going, yeah, there had to be something missing that year, and I know I couldn't go to one that year, or maybe I did. So it's like when it's kind of it's a strange oddity.
Was maybe he was in recovery, because I know it was within that time frame, within give or take a few years of when you know, the whole hospitalization thing.
Right. In 2008, we were in Las Vegas. In 2009, yeah.
Oh, the Vegas one. Yes. Actually, I still got our pictures from that Vegas event.
Right. Oh, first time I met GM Bobby was about like, I think I was about a year into my Balintawak when he came to Cincinnati to do a seminar for the first time. And it wasn't Master Federlight's place. It was Master Rafferty was the guy that we were at his place. Yep. And he was more of a Shorin-ryu karate guy. And of course it was well, we all went there, and like at first it was kind of like okay, he was actually really quiet, and Tito George pretty much did all the talking, and we were kind of in the middle of practice, and he introduced him, and then Bobby said, well, I'll just go ahead and sit back here and just kind of watch you guys. And so we did, and we kind of had our own practice. Then after a while, he came up and started talking about Balintawak and talking about himself and how he got his start. And then slowly he started showing us some stuff with Tito George, and it was just like really basic stuff. But then after a while, he said like, okay, he calls Ray out. And that's when stuff got real. That's when he started breaking out some of the like the heavy shit. I mean, with joint locks and breaks, and like some of the semi-advanced and some of the brutal puños and everything like that. And like and he was just like working Ray, and our jaws were just like freaking drop, dude. And we're going. Because like in all my years, because I trained with like martial arts and did wrestling, combative sports like for a long time, but never had I ever like really like worked with a true like authentic grandmaster, and it was my first time. I said, oh shoot, well that's what one looks like, holy crap. And then like, you know, I mean, and then we all kind of looked at each other like we're like going, oh shit. I said, yeah, that dude definitely has got the touch of death, man. So, like, and we all kind of wanted it, you know. It's like, well, okay, and that's what got us hooked on it. And then like then later, I mean, we went through the seminar the following day, and then of course Sunday before he left, we took him out to breakfast and everything like that. And then like, you know, it was more chill time and he talked about himself and he talked about life in the Philippines. And like, and then I did, because like, you know, a lot of us, we were Filipino, and it spoke to us because we could really, you know, understand a lot of the stuff that he was saying. It really spoke to us. And, you know, he brought our minds back to the old country, and like, and said like, yeah, I don't want you guys really shouldn't. It's great that you guys came here. It's nice meeting you, and man, don't forget where you came from or who you are. And to this day, like, no, we won't, you know. Yeah.
Any interesting or unique observations or experience you remember that you can share about Grandmaster Bobby?
Oh yeah.
It's like, go to the roll.
Where do I start? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can go back to my FQI exam, June. Before, like, he was like, I guess during the seminar time, we were he was demonstrating on me and everything like that. And like, I guess due to my lack of sleep, because we had a new kid and everything like that, I was, you know, I wasn't exactly as sharp as I really needed to be. And after he did this disarm, he started following through, and I didn't get out of the way in time. And he actually swung and broke my right hand.
No freaking way.
Yeah, and that was like the day before my FQI test. So that's why, like, if you see videos of my FQI test, my right hand's actually taped up because it's broken.
Wow, well, that's definitely going to be memorable for sure.
Yeah, but it wasn't his fault. Like I said, it's never the Grandmaster's fault. But I should have seen I didn't get out of the way in time. But that's like my memorable like technique, and you know, with Bobby.
Yeah. Any favorite GM Bobby Taboada quotes?
Favorite Bobby Taboada quotes. I like his analogies. I like. I mean, I always. The one I use most frequently in my classes is you know, peeler and keeler. Okay, the left hand and the right hand. The left hand is the one that's all touchy feely. The right hand is the killer. I use that all the time.
How has Balintawak impacted or influenced you?
Well, first of all, it's kept me motivated through and kept me in the martial arts yeah, for a long time. I mean, it's kind of like I mean, it's more than a hobby. It's more of like a way of life. It's part of my everyday living. So that's how it's impacted me. It's part of what I do, like, all the time. I mean, to me, it's as habitual as eating, drinking, sleeping, and going to church, right?
Right.
I mean, so to answer that question, I guess it's been everything.
Oh, it's been everything there. How has Balintawak impacted or influenced your students?
Students? Let's see. Where most of the students that I train with, they all learn Balintawak, but they all know something else. Okay, like there's, you know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. There's of course Dale is he's a longtime practitioner, 5th degree black belt in Aikido. I mean, it's like, and most of these guys don't need to learn Balintawak to learn how to kill somebody. They can already do that. They can, yeah. But like so the question of the day is like, why are they taking Balintawak, and specifically, why are they taking it from me? So it's like, well, you know. So I guess, I mean, so obviously they're getting something out of it. I mean, a lot of them are also in our military, and they're also law enforcement or retired. One guy I trained with was a former trainer for the SWAT team out here. He tells me that it's impacted him, in that like he can take it back to a lot of what we do over here, back to his studio or his range, and like and all the lessons and all the tactics that they do, that they all interconnect somehow. They have their similarities, but then there are little tweaks and differences about it, depending on where that came from or how it was applied. But it all, in the end, it's almost like you're using the same technique over and over again. In other words, I don't know if understand, but like everyone like studied the same thing. They came to the same conclusion, but they got there differently.
What do you think will be the hardest part about learning the art?
The hardest part about learning the art, for me, it was hard to unlearn some habits that really weren't compatible with Balintawak. Maybe when I was a kid, I learned things the karate way, and when you do karate, you have to do it pretty much their way, and and there isn't like any it's like your way of doing karate. It's you do it their way, and that's it. And so you built, and honestly, I kind of feel like I built some really unnatural movements. Okay, and Bobby tries to get you to do Balintawak like instead of hitting a stance, he wants you to walk normal, or he wants you to hold your hands normal like you would, because it's a street martial art. You're not gonna, when you're in danger, you're not gonna assume this like dance or whatever. He wants you to go ahead and act normal, right? And so the hardest thing for me personally was, speaking for myself, was like trying to unlearn all of that.
And work, basically empty the cup, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's hard to empty the cup when when all that crap is trained into you. Yeah. Everything like that for a god awful long time.
Yep. No, that makes sense. I mean, I see it all the time with a lot of different practitioners, especially that. And it's not, it's just a process of it. For those taking the step to try Balintawak, any words of encouragement or insights?
Words of encouragement or insights? Man, I'm such a horrible salesman, June. I go in there. I mean, in the end, it's like to me. I mean, it's like, come on in here. I mean, like, yeah, it's also who you train with. I mean, like, it's like, I mean, I'm not saying there's bad teachers, even though there might be, but it's like, is the vibe of the class right for you? If it is, then join. You're gonna have a good time, and you're gonna learn something. You're gonna have fun, and it's going to be insightful for you. Right. But if it's not, no, not a big deal. Go find another teacher, or find another martial art that you think you're going to enjoy. I can tell you how I benefit off of it. I mean, it's practical, and in my opinion, I mean, one of the things that we learned from if you ever train with John Saylor, who's the head of the Shinji Tai system out here, I'm under him as well, in Japanese jiu-jitsu, is that, like, he talks about like 3 assumptions in which, like, your training system should be based, and one of them is, and all the assumptions have to do with being in an actual fight or confrontation. So like when you're in that adverse situation, you always have to assume, first of all, that that there's a weapon involved. Number 2, the second assumption is that, like, there's more than one person involved in it too. You always have the assumption of multiple opponent. And number 3 is that, like, you also have to assume that, like, that your confrontation is being videotaped, and you have to do some explaining afterwards. So, like, when you think about that, Balintawak covers all those 3 elements. Okay. Weapon is the most obvious thing. Multiple opponent, how Bobby teaches you to go ahead and move and circle and stay in one place instead of running all over the place like a chicken with its head cut off and going all panicking and shit. And then and then also the fact that, like, your Balintawak stance, it's not like you're in this on guard stance like this. You had the weapon back here and your hands up like this. It looks like you don't want to fight, but this is actually the best position for you to be charging your weapon if they get too close. Right? He came too close. He made the aggressive move, and I swung. And you can check the shit out on camera. So it's all like, I mean, so it's all there. I mean,
I didn't think about the whole camera aspect, and I didn't think about that component to really be mindful about. I mean, of course, we think about it now, but not really kind of ingrained on it. And the fact that you're talking about the position with our full power position, I mean, that's really technically we're our hands are up.
Right.
Though our hand, though it's loaded.
Yeah.
Though it's loaded here.
I said, hey man, I didn't want to fight. See, we're up like this. You know, it's like, see, my stick was even behind my back. That's, you know, like.
Oh, that's awesome. Just gonna be a couple of insert questions that I had, which as we're talking, I wanted to kind of throw in there. Tell me about training with Ray. You know, not too many people know about Ray because you know Ray's doing the family thing right now. But
Yeah.
let's talk about the relationship and what it was like training with Ray, because you were fortunate to you know train under Grandmaster George there, and then having Ray there doing his thing as well. Tell me about that relationship and how it was training with him.
Yeah. Well, see, with Ray was one of my best friends in college. I was actually the best man at his wedding, so we were really tight. And of course, he was basically Tito George's right hand. So it was good to be best friends with the right hand dude. And there were times where, like, you know, when I was talking about unlearning stuff, well, I mean, more easier said than done. I think there were a couple of times where Tito George kind of like threw his hands in the air and goes, "Okay, you take care of him, Ray." And so, like, honestly, I don't know where I would be today in the world of Balintawak if it had not been for Ray Asuncion. And a cool thing about Ray is that, like, even though, you know, we don't see him a lot because he's in New York and he's like you said, he's doing the family thing. Every time I see him and then we'll go ahead and do some Balintawak, it's like you'd never be able to tell. I mean, he always has something to teach me and show me and things like that. It's like going, "Are you sure you haven't been?" He's like going, "Oh man." So it's like, but that's what I can say about Ray.
Yeah, no, I mean, he actually, I did pass through New York 2-3 years ago, and I did get to connect with him, and I was like, "Hey, you know, let's play." I still got that smooth swagger with the movement.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a smoothness and swagger to those movements, and I'm like, damn, like it's always a fun time to connect with the Ray there. What about let's talk about Tito George. How was that? How was the relationship interactions and any memorable things about training under Tito George?
One of my last like meaningful interactions with him was actually at a wedding. We hadn't seen each other for a long time, but we sat at the same table, and that was my last like real true meaningful interaction with Tito George. And then, you know, shortly after that, he kind of he had his medical condition, and then things started going south. But like we started talking about Balintawak, and like you know, and he was like really excited to see me. But then like you know, I didn't really want to talk about Balintawak at that time. I wanted to talk more about other things, like how he's doing, and you know, because I was really interested in like his health and things like that, and making sure he was taking care of himself, because you know. But he said he was saying that like and at the time I was teaching a lot less because I was traveling a lot more because of work. I'd actually kind of taken that hiatus from teaching, but he was trying to encourage me to get back into doing more teaching like I used to. Right. And then it said, next time you see me, come back and show me some new stuff. And I said, okay, I will. But then that day never came.
Oh,
which is why I, you know, and I still do kind of think about it, and I'm like going, okay, well, and I will. I mean, I'll come up with stuff, and even up till today, and I'll say like, man, Tito George would have thought this was like really cool if I showed him this and this and this, and like, so I guess in the end, it was like, you know, maybe it was meant to be, because that's what's kind of encouraged me to, you know, to become my own Balintawak martial artist and start getting, you know, using my own creativity.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, Tito George definitely had his influences with us. I mean, you know, all the different events and stuff. I mean, actually, it was because of him. You know, I mean, I stayed connected with him through the years, even after I moved down to Florida. Then it wasn't until like he had his medical condition, then he passed away, and it was like I was like, holy crap, you know, I've always had this thing about Tito George, like, yeah, you know, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go for it. And then when he passed, I said, all right, screw it. You know what, in his name kind of thing, in honor of everything that he's taught me and us and everything. I was like, you know what, I got to go down this journey. So totally understood there. Are there any other stories or particular stories maybe that you'd like to share through your journey of within Balintawak, whether it be with Cincinnati Balintawak Club, Tito George, Grandmaster George, or any of the crew, or any of your students? Is there any particular things you'd like to kind of share?
No, my last word is like, I'll say that, like, since I first started, from the days where you were either a white belt or a black belt, or you were in anything else, it was like, and to where we're at today, it's really just very impressive difference of where we're at today. And like, honestly, I was actually doubting in the beginning that we'd ever get to the point where we're at today. Okay. It was, and in the end, it's like, I'm just really happy to be a part of it. Okay. And just be, a part of this very, very special thing that appears to, that looks like it's growing to be as an influence through Europe and a lot of, in many parts of the world, which I would have never imagined way back in the day if you saw how we first started. So it's like, everything's encouraging. I mean, I'd also like to congratulate Guro Elmann, who's done such a great job with the Cincinnati Balintawak Club and MAKTAN. And he's, and yourself too. Looks like Dean, you guys are just killing it out there. Keep it up. I mean, if you guys got any events, feel free to share them. I mean, I'm encouraging my guys to go out there and be a part of it as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's we've all been on our journeys. It's interesting how we're all still, I'm glad that we're all still very well connected. I mean, obviously, running our own programs, running our own schools, running our own different events here and there, but ultimately we're all still together there. And I mean, heck, kudos to Grandmaster George for like really getting us all put together, really. So it's been pretty awesome that way. I think it's going to be a very, very interesting thing to see how this grows and how it goes. You're talking about how you're surprised as big as it got, because I remember when I got in, I thought I was late to the program, and we're only 20 people, maybe 20, 25 people within a camp. And you're just like, oh, okay, hey, great to see everybody. Everybody knows everybody. And now it's as huge as it is. So it's pretty impressive that way. First of all, thank you for being on this interview. I mean, it's always great to get insights there. A quick wrap up. How do people contact you?
Let's see. Mostly through Facebook. My website is actually down. I mean, if you hit me up and message me on Facebook, that's probably be the best way for people to get a hold of me.
All right, Elmann. Well, that's a wrap. I appreciate you having joined us on this FQI highlight series, and we'll be talking there for sure. I'll keep you posted with the information and details here when this releases.
All right, sounds good, bro.
Awesome, sounds good. Talk to you later. Thanks.
Hey, man.
Bye.
You too.